folks out there that it's the heart of our plan to build one Canadian economy to make sure that rural communities matter and the rural and northern way of life is really important. And that, of course, message right from our Prime Minister. As we said before, we're very, very clear in our statement that Budget 2025 is a transformational budget. It invests for Canada, and rural Canada is part of that mix. So we got major investments in housing, infrastructure, the resource sectors, while introducing programs to expand markets that'll benefit rural industries. So this budget is about growth, connectivity, and matching the resilience of the northern and rural people of Canada, because rural and northern Canada represents about 13% of the Canadian population, but well over 27% of our GDP. So we're always punching above our weight, but there's a lot of the things that we can speak about as we move forward on this fireside chat. And I look forward to many of the comments, questions, and interactions for this evening. Thank you.
MP Belanger, thank you so very much for those words of introduction. So it's great to have you here. Deputy Marianne Danduran.
And now, Marianne Danduran from Compton Stansted, welcome. A couple of words of introduction, please. Thank you very much, Sachit. It's a great pleasure to be with you this evening and to be accompanied by Sophie and Buckley. Greatly appreciated colleagues, because we're proud representatives of the region. I'd like to use the word regions rather than rurality, rural areas, because that includes all of my riding. Compton Stansted is in the south of Quebec. It's next to Vermont and New Hampshire. There's part of my riding that's covered by Sherbrooke, and there are issues which are very, very similar. I'm very, very proud to represent that area. I don't have the same size of riding as Sophie, 36 municipalities, so it's a big territory to cover. I'm an I'm very, very involved in tourism, and I got involved in politics 4 years ago when I started working for the former agriculture minister, Marie-Claude Bibeau, who was my member. That got me into politics. I worked in her office in agriculture for 2 years, and I worked at National Revenue for 2 years. That was an experience that allowed me to crisscross all the regions of Canada. And I think that allowed me to see the whole wealth of our country. I'm a very, very proud representative of the regions. I'm looking forward to talking about our priorities for the next few years in the Liberal Party. Thank you for your introductory remarks. Now, this is an important topic.
Hundreds of folks on this call, and so we're talking about supporting rural Canadians and everything that goes along with that. And I know we've got the experts for that around this table, from coast to coast here to coast, with lots of experience. And I know over those topics, Sophie Chatel and I have had lots of discussions around this topic. So let's jump right into it with the first question to Buckley. Buckley, if you're ready, if that's okay. Housing, it's a key issue facing many northern and rural communities, particularly in Indigenous communities. What action is the government taking to help make housing more affordable in these communities?
Well, you're absolutely right, Sachit, that as we traveled all over the country for the last 6 months, this has been a consistent theme. People are talking about just availability of housing, the fact that or housing in general, and the fact that there's a lack of affordable housing. And we're hearing this from the common everyday folks that are participating in some of our discussions, to rural leaders and to industry leaders. It's all about housing. And so as a result of that, we as Liberals are trying to help address this. And we know it takes a monumental effort nationally to begin to make a significant investment into solving these housing problems. That's why we're so happy with the budget 2025. As you know, we managed to get that through. We have two components of it. One is building Canada Homes. It's a new $13 billion federal agencies that will partner with the provinces, with the territories, with the municipalities and Indigenous communities to build a lot of more affordable houses faster. And we want to make sure that Northern Canada is engaged, rural Canada is engaged, and that is our total focus. The second component of that, Sachit, is the Indigenous housing strategy. Again, the figure that we are working with is over $3 billion available for Indigenous housing priorities, including in rural and northern areas. And we've been traveling on a few occasions with the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, Gregor Robertson, to make sure that rural and northern Canada is heard loud and clear. And I'll say it again, that rural Canada and northern Canada is heard loud and clear in our plan to double housing construction right from the outset, shaping policy. So it is important to know that we're trying to make sure that the realities that I know exist in some of the rural parts of our country, some of the remote parts of our country, and the northern and Indigenous communities, they are represented in these regions and their aspirations when it comes to housing. And I'll share it, folks, as my final comment. These are liberal values. There's no question that we have to understand that we need to help those who need it the most. And many places that I made reference to, of course, are the places that desperately need housing, and they will not be forgotten.
Thank you so much, Buckley. Appreciate that. Marianne, Sophie, do you want to jump in on the conversation as well? Marianne, please go ahead.
Oui, ben, en fait, une des choses que j'aime
Well, one of the things I really like about the new Canada Homes program is that it's a new way of dealing with housing in Canada. In the past, there have been several programs with criteria which were very, very strict and in which smaller municipalities weren't able to fulfill the criteria. In the regions like mine, for example, without, there's a lot of need for housing in small villages of 3,000 or 4,000 people. We need smaller infrastructure, so it's very difficult to qualify. The other thing is that people tell us that our programs are very bureaucratic. And regions don't often have the human resources. So what I like about this new program is really the program, which is a general framework. And what we ask really is to make sure that social housing is affordable and the criteria are pretty flexible. There's less bureaucracy, red tape, so someone can put forward a project and actually see that project get approved without having to actually fulfill the normal criteria you see in government. This flexibility really opens the doors to the regions outside urban areas that have huge needs in housing, but at a smaller scale. This is a new approach, and I think this new approach will allow us to meet the needs of the regions. Well, yes, I would also say that in smaller municipalities, there's also the issue of building more homes, but that requires municipal infrastructure to do that. And I'm very, very proud that in the budget announces massive funding for housing and for infrastructure that has to go with these new homes. There are projects in Île aux Allumettes in my riding. It's a lovely project, 24 units, but for a very small municipality like that one, you can't build fresh drinking water systems and wastewater systems for those homes. this is important because it means that people can no longer live in their communities, they have to move. So housing is essential to allow that, and the new Mark Carney government has invested massively in housing and also in infrastructure that supports housing as well. That's essential. Thank you, Sophie. And let's ask the next question in French now. It's for you, Marianne. Transport infrastructure, internet infrastructure, or postal services, no matter, access to vital services is an important issue for many rural communities. In fact, how is our Liberal government tackling this issue, in your opinion?
I feel like I need like half an hour to answer this because there's so much going on our side.
5 minutes.
OK, c'est bon. Donc, je vais de façon très
Just 5
succincte.
minutes. I'll be very, very succinct and concise. First of all, Sachit has raised Canada Post. Canada Post is an institution that's essential in the regions. It's very often what really drives the social fabric. It's a local service. It's really an institution that's a real requirement in the regions. All villages have their own post office, and I'm very, very proud of that. We've talked about the 17 million in daily losses at Canada Post and the need to act. And among the measures we've taken was to lift the moratorium on rural regional post offices. And people were concerned in my area. But there's an easy explanation, a simple explanation. This moratorium was put in place several decades ago. And since that time, what was considered a rural region at the time is no longer the case. There's been lots of urban sprawl, and there are now postal counters that are covered by the moratorium, and which are now part of major urban areas. So one of the things we've done is to allow Canada Post to close those offices to save money, and very often there are other services to replace the post office. So our government is taking action and to really turn Canada Post around. So we've cleaned up house, and we do recognize the importance of rural post offices, and they will be maintained. That's for Canada Post, but there are other parts to your question, Sachit. I think, for example, connectivity. I think that our government has done an awful lot over the past few years for connectivity. People outside Quebec, people in Quebec are perhaps much more satisfied now than they were in the past. We've announced that 100% of Quebec is now connected to high-speed internet. There's still the final mile in some cases, some houses here and there that are not yet connected to high-speed internet, but there's a good agreement between Quebec suppliers and the federal government to connect everyone to high-speed internet. So that's excellent news. Our objective is to connect everyone by 2030. Quebec has announced that this will be done. This was done in 2024. And elsewhere in Canada, our strategy is still undergoing. There are $6 billion that are being invested in connecting the regions, and the work is ongoing. So that's another priority for us. Cell service is important in rural areas for the economy and for safety as well. It's an issue of equity as well. When you live in the regions, you have just as much right to cell services for those who live in the cities. And this brings me to one of the largest amounts we're investing in this budget, the funds to build communities over the next 10 years. We're talking about $51 billion they'll be investing in communities. This includes the regions, of course. So communities, 30 billion for local infrastructure in the communities, arena, libraries, roofs, roof replacement, real investment in real infrastructure within municipalities. There's also direct subsidies, 6 billion there. Those are for major renovations. to adapt to climate change and for community regional infrastructure. And finally, something which I really, really like because it deals with health and accessibility to the accessibility of health. There's a provincial and territorial part to which will be an investment of 5 billion for health infrastructure, hospitals, building and renovation of hospitals, and that's something which is a great victory for the regions as well. We'll be investing in infrastructure, especially in health infrastructure. That's a win. Thank you very much, Marianne. Sophie, Buckley.
Yeah. One thing I would add
Go ahead,
is
Sophie.
on the satellite provision of cellular is a promising technology. I know Telesat is opening in Gatineau, and we will launch the first satellite all made in Canada. So it's a difficult issue, the cellular, and as Marianne mentioned, it's difficult in our community for security. I was at the police office in one part of my rural area, and they have to cover an enormous territory. It's the SQ. And sometimes they have crises and they don't have access to the phone too. So it's a massive issue for rural communities, and I hope that we'll find a way to help and incentivize companies to provide service. I know it's costly, but yeah.
Yeah, what I'd like to add as well. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
go ahead, Buckley.
Sachit, on the whole notion of connectivity, our goals and objective is to achieve 100% connectivity as it pertains to internet services across the country. We do this through partnerships, and the partnerships include, for example, in Saskatchewan, we use SaskTel. And in recent years, we have contributed several $100 million. That's the objective, to help SaskTel with the infrastructure costs. And it's important for people out there to know that we partner with telcos right across the nation. While we help them with their infrastructure, it's important to note that we don't have the ongoing costs attached to the telcos. We tell them we will help. We will certainly help with this whole cost of the infrastructure, but the ongoing cost of maintaining the system is yours, because we're not going back to the taxpayers all the time. We don't want to subsidize your operations. The two things we want back is we want to have quality of the high-speed internet, and we also have the affordability issue around the for Canadians. So it's very clear that we want to look at the whole notion around affordability, accessibility in terms of the high-speed internet, and the whole notion of taking care of your own system, so not going back to the taxpayers all the time. Very quickly, there are three ways that we connect people. One of them, of course, is through the cable system, right directly to their homes. The second thing we do is the land assets, so the tower system. And we're looking at the third option, as was mentioned, and that's the LEO option, which is low Earth orbit. For the hard to reach locations, could be an isolated area, could be the mountainous regions of BC as an example. So we're looking at all these examples, and it's all Canadian. And the idea is to hook up all of Canada 100% by 2030. It's a very ambitious plan, but we're making great progress.
Thank you so much. And Buckley, very much appreciate that. And really, it's a massive topic that I think we could spend the entire call on just by itself. And we've just touched a few points, and those are huge just on themselves. Before we continue on, I just do want to take a moment and once again thank all our panelists. It's great to be here. I know you're taking a lot of time away from your duties otherwise, so we do very much appreciate you. And I also want to thank all you folks on the call tonight. It is great to see so many of you here. It's great to see the chat panel. Please keep asking your questions as well. We love to see them all, and we're doing our best to get to everybody. So love the engagement. That's fantastic. And we appreciate everything that you do for the party. And also, before we move forward, the party really is supported by all our membership, whether that's at an EDA level or at a federal level. Whatever you can do to keep supporting is much appreciated, whether that means door knocking on days of actions or in between, making phone calls, having those conversations with your neighbors because it's so important right now, or importantly, contributing through our Victory Fund or our Laurier Club memberships, either through a new membership or a renewal if you haven't done that in a little while. It really does keep our movement and organization growing, and we very much appreciate you participating. So please check it out. You can head to liberal.ca and sign up there. Tell them Sach sent you, and we'll very much appreciate you. Folks, we're going to go to the third question with that, and this one is for Sophie. Sophie, rural communities rely on strong local economies to keep people working and small towns growing. How is our federal government supporting local farmers, small businesses, and local industries so rural regions can stay strong and competitive? Let's see.
There's a lot to unpack here because you mentioned three pillars of rural economy: small, medium businesses, agriculture, and industry like mining and forestry. So, Sachit, if you allow me, I unpack it with a slide because I find it easier to explain. There's so much to say and so little time. So
by all means, let's see it.
All right. So basically, for small businesses, and I always like to start with our values because this government recognizes that rural communities are the backbone of our country and they feed us, right, with agriculture, agri-food, and they power our economy and our future, I would say, with mining, with the critical mining. So how do we help and support our rural economy and our small businesses? These are four that I think are very important. They are new. Marianne already mentioned the Build Community Strong Fund, and it will be very impactful because small, medium businesses need the infrastructure to support their activities. So that will be good. It will be good to attract workers too with new facilities. So to really create a good and strong economy and a strong community. We already talked about the broadband, so I'll skip that. One very important investment in our community for small, medium business is our Regional Economic Development Agency. In my writing, they're everywhere. They support businesses, startup that really create jobs in rural communities. These are small and medium businesses or larger that expand as well. But the DEC Canada is very important and tout le réseau au Québec, le réseau DSADC.
And the network in Quebec is vital as well.
Important is in the new budget, we talk about the productivity super deduction that will really help businesses to invest in machinery, processing equipment, and digital technology. This is a very important one. Je vais aller maintenant à
Now I would like to talk about agriculture and agri-food. Once again, I'd like to start with values. In the 2025 budget, recognized just how much agriculture and agri-food is a key sector in our economy. It's a strategic asset, in fact. Without food, you can't do much. So what we need are farmers to grow the food we eat. So what are the actions we're taking to support our producers? Once again, there's the new productivity super deduction, which is designed to ensure that companies and businesses, especially in the agri-food sector, feel the impact. We talk a lot about productivity, but what does that require? It requires major investment. Several businesses in my riding have the capacity to produce more food and to process more food, but they require machines and the facilities. I'll give you an example. I bought pickles in a supermarket. They came from Ontario, but Sachit, guess where they were actually bottled? Guess where? In Germany. Imagine. So we grow the pickles here. They're sent to Germany to be processed and bottled, and they sell them back to us. We have to do more here at home. That's really something else that's vital. But for the sectors, we have very important programs that will help farmers to diversify. I won't go into details this evening, but we have key programs for our producers, agri-stability, agri-marketing, and agri-innovate as well. We also have basic programs such as advanced payments, the advanced payment program, and all. And we'll come back to this later, but investment in ports and rail lines, this helps our growers, our farmers to get their products to market. And once again, the agriculture and agri-food sectors don't just feed Canada, but they have the ability to feed the world, in fact. And very, very quickly, the last slide I'd like to present this evening, mills and mines, forestry and mines. These are essential sectors for rural areas. Why are they so important? Well, if you want to build more homes, Sachit,
we need more wood, and we need Canadian wood, Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum. And if we want to be the next clean economy, we need mining. Where are those resources? In rural Canada. So that's why we really invest strategically in those sectors. Forestry has a hard time now, but we really invest so that they transform their facilities in order to build wood and transform wood here in Canada to build our home and also to export in new markets. But it takes investment in the transformation of their facilities and modernization and to process more. On se disait beaucoup, on envoie notre 2x4 là, aux États-Unis.
We send our 2x4s to the US, and then we buy back furniture from the US and other processed products. We should be doing more processing here at home. I'll stop there because there's a lot more we could say, but I think that each sector was worth talking about tonight.
Obviously, lots of thoughts.
Well, I think I was without saying that you've answered some major questions this evening.
Marianne, do you want to add into that? Marianne, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Marianne. You look at all the language, folks, right across the country, and it's important we share this with the folks that are making a difference to us. And those are the donors, the people that are members of our party, the people that help us and volunteer in many ways. If it was not for you folks, we wouldn't be here fighting the fight that we have to fight. Because every single day, the Conservatives in some way try and bring down this government, try and discourage investment into the country. The list goes on as to what they are doing, this great harm to our country. Now, you shift to the focus to the Liberals. You know, we have seen, since I've been there, it's only been 7 months I've been an MP, a lot of energy within our party. They have a lot of energy. Then you complement that with Carney coming along, talking about building that one Canadian economy, as Sophie alluded to. using Canadian lumber to build 500,000 homes over the next 4 years to help house Canadians. Then he talks about streamlining our economy, investment to certain sectors of our economy, and that's, of course, the nation building projects. Then he talks about expanding our customer base, so to speak, as a country, looking for new agreements with many new trading partners. And the Prime Minister is constantly building this vision that they want to build Canada into a very responsible, highly cohesive, integrated, and powerful trading partner. That's what he wants to build. So he's asking all of us Canadians to look at the word investment instead of spending. There's a significant difference. So I can tell you from my perspective very, very quickly, our Prime Minister is on the right path. We are fighting the fight necessary here on Parliament Hill, as witnessed at yesterday's budget vote. But we don't forget the folks that got us to this dance. And that's the folks that we're speaking today. So I'll say to you, merci beaucoup, because without you, we wouldn't be here fighting for the right things. And I think that's a very important message to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Buckley, Marianne.
Oui, ben, en fait, quand on parle de souveraineté alimentaire,
Well, sovereignty, food sovereignty, I think that we're at the heart, we're talking about the heart of rural regions. Canada is a huge exporter of agriculture projects. We're a big producer of grain, of livestock. We have many strengths, and that's because of our climate. And as Sophie has said, there are other products that we do import. For example, vegetables, we have to get supply outside Canada during the winter. So we're working to strengthen our ability to process more at home. We have a very dynamic sector here at home. What I like about the budget is that it's very broad, it's very, it's open to lots of new ideas. There are some specific ideas which are new ideas in terms of the government approach, investment in the energy sector, in defense, for example, but in general, we talk in general terms about supporting small and medium businesses in the agri-food and farming sector with some rather significant tax incentives that will allow them to grow without us actually specifying what can be done. There are major things that this government is doing. There's space in this budget for people with ideas. I think really that we have to have people understand that we have to communicate our message, just how high quality our food here is in Canada. We have food which is produced in a very sustainable way here in Canada. This is one of our trademarks. I think our food is very, very safe. That's important as a selling point. It's grown in a very environmentally friendly way as well. I would be remiss not to mention the importance of supply management. I come from a riding where there's all sorts of different types of agriculture, including dairy, including beef and grains. And one of the errors we make, the mistakes we make rather, is to pit supply management and other sectors against each other. I think that's a big mistake. I think that all sectors can exist in harmony, and the supply management system, which includes poultry, eggs, and dairy, is a protected sector. And this means that smaller farms can survive, they can succeed at a local level. So when you crisscross the regions in the eastern townships, for more specifically, you see very many small farms human scale farms that keep communities alive. It keeps people in rural areas and it allows people to have viable businesses without there being industrial scale of farms. So all sectors can live together, I think, in harmony. But the Liberal Party created supply management and we continue to support it because we see the benefits that it brings to communities. I don't want to take too much time, but we also should talk about the major projects, the nation-building projects, as we call them. They'll have a major impact on the regions. In the major projects office, there's a lot of focus on rural regions. I think that Sachit, you'll give us some more time later to come back to this. We still have one more rural question to get through.
Just a big plug and a reminder for the biennial convention coming up 2026 in Montreal, April 10th and 11th. I promise it's going to be a great event with lots of great speakers and panels and forums and commission works. And heck, you might even meet an MP or two hanging around, I'm sure. The last big one was in Ottawa in 2023 with lots of folks in attendance. And I think this will be an even bigger event with your participation, of course. So please mark your calendars, 2026. We'd love to have you out there. We'd love to hear from you and we'd love to have you participating. In anticipation of the event, the party has organized Road to Convention or LIB 2026 events across the country. I was just in one in Vancouver over this last weekend. There'll be another one in Montreal this weekend coming up. Check out liberal.ca for additional details, and I will see you out there. Thanks very much, everyone. Donc, notre dernière question, question numéro 4.
Now, our next question, for any of you, I'd just like to ask the question, and if you're ready, please answer. In terms of connectivity and local infrastructure, that's a fundamental issue. What investments are we making in things like roads, bridges, clean energy, and community facilities to help rural Canadians now and in the future?
Sophie, Marianne, Buckley.
Sophie, Marianne, Buckley.
Well, if the ladies don't mind, I just wanted to point a couple points. Number one is throughout our travels as rural development minister, we've been asked for things like roads, water and wastewater plants. And that's been a consistent theme. Health facilities and community spaces, especially in rural and remote areas. And that's requests coming from many of the partners, including the municipalities. First Nations water and wastewater. We're going to be putting $2.3 billion over 3 years to address that issue because it needs to be addressed. On the whole notion around some of the infrastructure needed for some of the municipal structures, roads, water, health facilities, we're putting towards a program called Building Community Strong Fund. $51 billion set aside for that particular exercise. So I really think that our federal Liberal government is listening to rural Canada. What we got to do is make sure rural Canada is represented in that spending. And this is why it comes to various advisors and support systems like Marianne and Sophie. They're very strong champions of the rural Canadian agenda. But before I forget, Sachit, I want to say one thing about the volunteers that are out there. Your team, Sachit, should be commended as well, because you folks have done a tremendous amount of work. People don't know how lucky we are to have you as our president, the team behind you. You folks are doing an amazing job. And the inspiration from the field workers, from the local donors, from the people that volunteer, without you, we can't make it. And Sachit, your team is the second defense system. And that really gives us inspiration in Ottawa. So I think we need to take our hats off to you guys, Sachit, because all the reports is you guys are working hard. You're building a solid base. And I think in the middle of the membership and the politicians, we have you. And each three sectors of the Liberal Party, the local volunteer, the organizers, and the politicians, everybody's doing their part to assist each other. And that makes for a beautiful symphony, if I said that right. Thanks,
Wow.
Thank you, Buckley. That is a beautiful sentiment. Thank you very much. It truly, truly is a team effort. And, you know, if we can just for a moment look back at this last campaign, the phenomenal candidates such as yourself and Marianne and Sophie that we ran, the experience that was brought forward. But from the party side, it was the largest deployment of volunteers in the party's history. You know, we had thousands of folks across the country that believe in the work that this government, that you folks are doing. And, you know, if this conversation tonight is any example, you are delivering. Thanks for all the hard work that you do, the time that you put forward. We know it's not easy. We know the energy that it takes. And so you are all to be commended. Thank you for being our heroes. Thank you for being our champions. Thank you for being our rock stars. Thanks for the work that you do. Marianne, Sophie, who wants to jump in first?
On the question that you asked earlier, the one thing we have to add is the energy sector. We know with the big data, with the AI, how much energy Canada will need. And again, in rural areas, the access to the grid is a big issue. So investment that we've done, like whether it's with Hydro-Quebec, with the small reactor in Ontario, so investing in the energy in this country is also phenomenal in this new government, and something I'm very proud, and we should all be very proud. And as Buckley said, we could do this for our great country because you were there with us every step of the way. Sachit and your team and every single volunteers and those in rural area, we all know houses are spread apart and we need to innovate and have strategize in order to reach our voters. But the dedication make it such that we can build this country strong.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Appreciate those kind words. And, you know, just for a moment as well, like you look at the folks at LPC and, you know, sometimes we think the LPC is this giant monolithic structure, but the reality is it's a couple of handfuls of dedicated folks that give their time, love, energy, you know, blood, sweat, tears, and they put it into it. And, you know, hats off to all the LPC staff, coast to coast, that do a phenomenal job. You know who you folks are. We see the work that you're doing. Thank you to each and every one of you. Marianne, back to the question.
Yes, thank you. So there's a lot to say about what's going on or what's coming for our communities. Et je veux revenir sur le bureau des grands projets.
I'd like to pick up on the major projects office, Sachit, because that's, well, in fact, the Buy Canadian Act, the office, our defense procurement structure, these are areas where the government will be investing a lot of money to create demand within the country. The government of Canada will become, or will use Canada rather, and Canadian businesses as their major suppliers. So in the long term, there will be regional companies that will obtain contracts from the government. This will allow these companies to develop. It'll create security for these companies. And as the government invests in major projects, the whole ecosystem, the whole supply system will be impacted, including in the regional communities. I visited many small businesses that have great expertise, that won't have a huge contract to build icebreakers, but they will be able to make a contribution to some parts, for example, pipes. This is one of the areas of expertise I have in my writing. Developing that will create demand across the country, including in the regions, and there's great focus by our government on that to make sure that Canadian companies are given these contracts. In the current economic context, I think is one of the best solutions that we have to make sure that all rural areas remain robust, that jobs remain in the regions, high quality jobs remain there, and in parallel we have to develop new markets. These are new opportunities for businesses. I know I'm digressing from your question, but it's very important that I broach this subject tonight. And Sachit, if you allow me to digress further, because I see comments in the chat, very interesting comments about supply management. There's lots and lots of myths that we have to dispel about supply management. The idea of milk that's wasted. Milk production is where there's the least amount of waste among all agricultural sectors in Canada. It's like carrot producers. Many carrots remain in the fields because they're category B. They become fertilizer, but this is food that is being wasted. Nevertheless, that's a real difference between that and the milk sector. In the milk sector, the dairy sector, milk is produced based on the amount actually required. So there's very little waste unless there are cows that have to be treated with antibiotics. That milk can't be kept. There's also transportation issues sometimes, but apart from that, I think it's an exceptional sector. The supply management sector avoids waste, and it means that we're able to keep products affordable for everyone. That's good. So really, this is the type of discussion we should have. And unfortunately, we can't have that discussion when we have very, very little time in the media to explain it. When you talk to farmers, when you go to farm open days, this is the type of information you'll learn. It's very, very interesting to see how our agricultural sector is really a driver for our economy, and how much our farmers are responsible, environmentally respectful, and this sector is very, very dynamic. It's vibrant. It's amazing.
And folks, it is hard to believe we're at 7:53. At least here in Winnipeg, we are in different times across the country, of course, a little bit later or earlier, depending on where you are. But with that, I'm going to hand it back to our panelists before once again thanking them all and give them a minute or so to close up each. Maybe we'll start with Buckley for some closing comments. Buckley, please go ahead.
Very quickly, Badek, Nova Scotia is getting a rink because it is Canadian government. Nunavut is getting housing and hydro development because of this Canadian government. BC is building an energy corridor because of this Canadian government. Manitoba is building another port to help move our goods to international markets because of this Canadian government. We are defending the northern part of our country better, stronger, faster because of this Canadian government. We are also know that in northern Saskatchewan, Beauval needs a rink, the one that burnt down in a neighboring community of mine. Isla Lacrosse needs artificial ice. So as we move forward to help those areas that have been long neglected in rural Saskatchewan, rural Canada and northern Saskatchewan, this government is delivering. We're able to deliver because the Sachit team and the folks that are taking part in this forum, I thank you again. Without you, we wouldn't be doing this wonderful work that we are. Merci beaucoup.
Buckley, you're fantastic. Thank you so very much. And Sophie?
Well, yes, thank you very much. And it would be remiss of me to leave without mentioning three aspects of what we're doing for rural areas, for people living in the regions, as Marianne would say. The first thing we're doing is the summer employment, summer jobs program. In the chat, someone was asking what was for young people. This is an extraordinary program. The budget has added extra money to that program. It helps businesses in small communities, and it gives young people the opportunity to have a first job experience in fantastic businesses in the region, but also in the cities. But of course, we want them to stay in the regions. Now, secondly, the New Horizons project, which is designed to help seniors to prosper in their own communities and to remain active in life. But our program is going to be fantastic, Sachit, and that's thanks to this government. It's the school food program, which will be implemented in all schools to ensure that our young kids go to school with a full tummy. And that's really the idea of focusing on human infrastructure across the country. It'll also help with affordability. Families will see their grocery costs go down. So the government is dealing with the infrastructure, major projects, but it's not forgetting ordinary people. It's not forgetting that we're all humans and that there's human capital in this country that has to be taken care of. That's what we're doing for the rural regions as well. Thank you very much, Sachit, for inviting me to take part. I'd like to thank my colleagues. Thanks to you who have listened to us this evening and who are supporting us, who are there day in, day out, knocking on doors, making donations. You've given us wings and you've allowed us to implement an ambitious agenda to make Canada the best country in the world. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sophie. Marianne. Very, very quickly, briefly, I'd like to talk about climate change and about the importance for our government of continuing to tackle climate change, especially extreme climate events, which has the greatest impact on the cost of food in this country, the cost of fertilizer, for example, is up, and extreme climate events make food even less affordable. So we have to continue to deal with that. I have to tell you that I have the honor of being the chair of the Rural Caucus. And what we're currently looking at now in the caucus is local media. We must, it's essential that we provide for the survival of local media in the era of disinformation. Cell and internet connectivity. It's an economic safety issue. It's an issue of equity as well. And the last thing I'd like to say is the regionalization of immigration in the regions where population is shrinking, where retirees dominate. We have to use immigration to our benefit. We have to encourage immigrants to settle in the regions. This will make all the difference for our rural and regional communities as well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Buckley, for taking the time being on the call. Thank you to each and one of you that was in the chat and registered to be on this call tonight. Thank you for everything that you do, the phone calls, the door knocks, being on the floor, those conversations with your neighbors. They're very, very important. Thank you to our translator tonight, who is doing a lot of work. And on a side note, I believe this was one of the most French fireside chats that we've had. La majorité de l'appel, c'était en français. Félicitations à tout le monde. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to everyone for that.
Thank you to you all. Thanks to LPC. Thanks for the folks. We'll see you all very, very soon.